the National Ask Your Candidate campaign, and the National Tax Research Committee. Mr. Ray has also served as a coalition builder, grassroots organizer, and citizen lobbyist for the fair tax as well. So, speaking on fair tax, Tom Ray.
Thank you.
Now, I can just stand here without using the mic. So here's where I'm being videoed from, right? Okay, good. Now, if I just talk, are you going to put the audio through the camera? Directly into the camera? How are you going to do this?
Right now it's just the audio into the camera from the speakers, not directly.
So I probably ought to have this on,
Yes.
just so the camera can hear me better, even though everybody can hear me just fine.
Yes.
How's that? Is that better for the camera too? Okay, the cameraman likes that. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do is highly praise, seems like I'm making more noise by moving than anything else, highly praise the young lady who put this thing together. I have never had a high school student, I've been doing this 19 years, been a volunteer for the fair tax and its predecessors for 19 years. I've never had a high school student come and offer to do anything like this. I've never had one who so completely demonstrated her knowledge of the bill. And I've done a lot of radio shows where the hosts knew less about the bill than she did. I have done debates with people who don't think the fair tax is a good idea, who don't understand the fair tax as well as she does. I've testified before the Presidential Commission where there were PhD economists on the panel working for President Bush who don't understand the fair tax as well as she does. So I want to greatly praise this young lady for putting this thing together. I am amazed at her competence and her willingness, and I'm going to keep her in my database and keep sending her Christmas cards, because I suspect one day when I send her a Christmas card and go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, anybody who starts out like this is impressive beyond belief. Now, the thing that you need to know about this event is 19 years ago, in the living room of a friend of mine's house in Southern California, a bunch of people got together, a bunch, not this many people got together, and said, you know, the income tax is fatally flawed. It just doesn't work. It can't be made to work. It is a system that will not handle the funding of our federal government and the support of the Bill of Rights and freedom for individual people and fund our nation as it needs to be funded and handle the debts that Congress has created in our nation. Let's come up with a grassroots organization to replace the income tax with a national retail sales tax. This whole thing started 19 years ago in the living room of a friend of mine's house in Southern California with fewer people than this. So good job on how many people you got here tonight. Okay, good job. Now, how I got involved is those guys were all lawyers and CPAs. And none of them knew anything about marketing. And so one of them said, hey, there's that Tom Wright guy in Texas. At the time, I owned an advertising agency in Houston. He owns an advertising agency in Houston. He must know everything about marketing and grassroots and political organization and all that stuff. Give Tom a call. Maybe he'll help us. So there I am. I'm a new father, just adopted my daughter in December. It's January of 1990. Phone rings. This is the story they give me, and they say, Tom, we're really enthused. We're going to start a grassroots organization to replace the income tax with a national retail sales tax. We need help in marketing. Since you own an advertising agency, you must know everything about it. Will you help us? And like a fool, I said yes. And here I am 19 years later, 38 states, many hundreds of thousands of dollars, all out of my own pocket, to support this thing and bring it forward. So this is a great beginning for, where am I in Connecticut? Storrs, Connecticut. This is a great beginning for Storrs, Connecticut. And I do know Connecticut a little bit. I've given many of these speeches to the Farm Bureau. And how do we make that noise go away. I can't move. Is that the only way I can make that noise go away? Is that me moving every time?
It might be where the mic's placed. You can pull it out a little further if you want.
See how that does? Where was I? Farm Bureau. Thank you. Right after I moved here to Florida, I'm not in Florida, I'm in Connecticut again. Right after I moved to Florida, I had a friend calling and beating me up saying, Tom, you need to pay attention to the Farm Bureau. Now, at that point, I'd organized the Texas Republican Party and gotten them totally behind the fair tax. I'd organized the Texas Democratic Party and gotten very close to getting them behind the fair tax. So I was going to do the same thing in Florida. I had this guy calling me up saying, Tom, you got to pay attention to the Farm Bureau. They really know what they're doing. And I'm like, I'm doing political parties. I already know how to do that. I've done the America First Party and the Reform Party and the Libertarian Party and the Democratic Party. So I was just going to keep doing what I've done. And then they had their national convention. The Farm Bureau had their national convention in Tampa, right next to where I live. And so I had to help them. So I set it all up and I went over there and I quickly found out that farmers are among the best organized grassroots organizations in the U.S. They have lobbyists everywhere, they have organizations. When the Farm Bureau gets behind you, you have people who are really helping. Now the reason I'm bringing this up is when I started talking to the Farm Bureau, I was talking to the Farm Bureau in Tennessee, the largest Farm Bureau in the U.S., the Farm Bureau in Texas, one of the second largest, the Farm Bureau in Massachusetts, which by the way has fully endorsed the fair tax. The Farm Bureau in Rhode Island, by the way, which has also fully endorsed the fair tax. And I started speaking to them and they didn't like me at first. And why don't they? Well, because Tom, you're too slick. You're too slick. And then I realized, oh, it's because I sound like I'm from Greenwich, Connecticut, which is where I lived for quite a while, between Texas here and Texas there. So I always remind the Farm Bureau that, okay, I sound like I'm from Greenwich, Connecticut, because I am, but I did grow up in South Texas and small towns, and I understand small towns and that sort of stuff. So by way of introduction, I've also lived in Connecticut before. I'm not just some Texas interloper who's come in here. Now, what are we here for? We're here to talk about the fair tax. Does everyone know what the fair tax is? Yes, no. There's a no. Good, okay. Most everybody else does. Now, I've also been told that this might be a progressive part of the state of Connecticut. Is this a progressive part of the state of Connecticut? No. Is it a liberal part of the state of Connecticut? It's a liberal part of the state of Connecticut. No, it's not a liberal part of the state of Connecticut. It's a conservative part of the state of Connecticut. I mean, I used to live in Greenwich, okay, and I know that part of the world. This is not Greenwich. So the first thing I want to make absolutely clear is the fair tax is a non-partisan, not bipartisan, non-partisan proposal. It is simply a proposal to replace how we collect the income tax, or how we collect the money. That was entirely wrong. Let's do that statement again. How we collect the money to run our federal government. It has nothing to do with parties. It has nothing to do with who's in the White House, nothing to do with who's in the House or the Senate. It is a federal bill. All those things have been layered on to the fair tax by others who have come subsequently. So let me make it perfectly clear. This is a nonpartisan, not bipartisan, nonpartisan attempt to make our country run